On my 30th birthday, Laura asked me for a divorce for the 7th time. Charlie is such a proud man, and he's humbled himself for me for so many years. I can't keep letting him down. After she said it, she leaned back, her eyes wary, bracing for me to fly into a rage like the last few times. But this time I just gave a faint nod and said, "Okay." Laura brought it up right after I had put our son to bed. She cornered me at his bedroom door and said, right in front of the child, he gave himself to me, completely innocent. I can't disrespect that kind of devotion. I glanced back at our son. His long eyelashes trembled, and his hand tightened on the blanket. He wasn't asleep. I shoved Laura out of the room. The cake on the table hadn't even been cleared away yet. Today was my 30th birthday. It was also our 7th wedding anniversary. It felt like the blink of an eye. We'd been married for 7 years, and she'd been cheating on me for 3. "Aren't you going to say something?" She kept her distance from me. I couldn't blame her. This was the 7th time she'd asked for a divorce. After that last time, the guilt in her eyes when she looked at me and our son was gone. She hated me, and by extension, she resented our son. Okay. I heard myself whisper that single word. She froze for a few seconds, then it dawned on her. You agree? You really agree?" I threw the cake I had baked with my own hands into the trash can and nodded with a smile. "I agree." Her eyes couldn't hide her excitement and joy. She rushed into the study and shut the door tight. But she was so happy she didn't control her volume, and the sound of her sharing the good news still carried through. He agreed. What else could he agree to? The divorce. He agreed to the divorce. "Charlie, I'm finally free. We can be together openly now. I didn't let you down." Yes, of course. I'll treat Dylan like my own son." My hands couldn't help but tremble slightly. 3 years of love, 7 years of marriage, a whole decade. When she talked about me with Charlie, she called me that lunatic. Was I a lunatic from the very beginning? Dad? I snapped back to reality and looked down to see my son standing beside me, his eyes red. "Dad, who's Mom on the phone with?" "A coworker." "Are you and Mom getting a divorce?" For years, I had tried my best to hide Laura's affair from our son, but he wasn't stupid. He could sense it. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer his question. The study door opened, and Laura came over excitedly with the divorce papers, only to stop in her tracks when she saw our son. "Why did you bring him out here?" she snapped, glaring at me. I remembered the first time she'd asked for a divorce. I'd asked her why. Was she cheating? Had she fallen for someone else? She denied it vehemently. She had to protect Charlie, so she turned the knife on me. She said she was sick of me looking like a fat pig, that I embarrassed her in front of her colleagues and friends. After our son was born, I had let myself go while taking care of the family and had indeed put on a lot of weight. I was no longer tall and handsome, and my footsteps had become heavy. Once she saw how her words wounded me, she realized she had found a very effective weapon. So, when I was up early making breakfast, taking our son to school, or just bustling around the house, she would impatiently storm up to me. "Can't you walk a little lighter? You sound like a wild bull. If you don't care about waking me up, what about the neighbors downstairs?" I started walking on eggshells. I also started working out. But when I successfully got back to my original weight, she asked for a divorce again. What was the reason this time? Oh right, she said we had nothing in common anymore. I'd been a stay-at-home dad for years, while she was now a company executive. I wasn't good enough for her anymore. Every time she brought up divorce, the reason was always me. I wasn't young anymore, not handsome, not gentle. I was vulgar and couldn't understand her. She never mentioned Charlie, never mentioned her own wandering eye. Not until I found out about them, until I tore off her despicable mask. She finally screamed at me, "What gives you the right to compare yourself to Charlie? He's young, handsome, gentle, and he loves me. He's pure." Our fight landed us in the hospital. That was also the first time I met Charlie. In Laura's hospital room, he dropped to his knees the moment he saw me, tears streaming down his face. "As a man, I understand your anger. What we did was wrong, and we're so sorry. But please, for the sake of your years of marriage, Stop torturing Laura. She'll die. If you don't care about her, I do. With that, he grabbed my hand and slapped himself across the face with it, again and again. Ignoring her own injuries, Laura tumbled out of bed and crawled to Charlie's side. They clung to each other, sobbing. What a pair of star-crossed lovers. Mom's phone call woke me up. My son's voice pulled me back to the present. He sounded unervingly calm. Is Mom divorcing you, Dad? Laura choked, unable to look our son in the eye. He was only 6, yet he had to witness this adult mess. I tried to lead him back to his room, but he stood his ground stubbornly. This is my and Dad's home. Mom should have left a long time ago. Laura's eyes went wide, as if she couldn't believe what our son had just said. You're the one who betrayed this family. Mom, I will never forgive you. I don't have a mother like you. After he said his piece, he turned and patted my hand. Don't be scared, Dad. I'll always be with you and support you. My nose tingled, and a wave of warmth and hurt washed over me. Once my son was back in his room, I pointed to the papers in Laura's hand and asked a question. Is that the divorce agreement? Laura nodded numbly. Let me see it. She didn't move. I finally walked over, took the documents from her, and read through them page by page. Our son would naturally be in my custody. In addition, she was willing to give me 60% of our post-marital assets and our current house. I immediately called my lawyer. The property division was already very favorable to me. Even with evidence of her affair, a judge wouldn't order her to leave with nothing. In fact, I might not even get this much if we went to court. The lawyer's voice came through the phone, loud enough for Laura to hear. So, I recommend you sign it and get the divorce. You've already consulted a lawyer about this? When? She seemed a little annoyed with me. Perhaps in her mind, I wasn't supposed to leave so willingly. I was supposed to get on my knees and beg her to stay, only to be brutally rejected. I didn't answer her question. I picked up a pen and cleanly signed my name. Tomorrow's a weekday. Let's go to the courthouse in the morning. Laura thought for a moment, then signed her name, nodded, and looked at me. It was the first time in 3 years she had looked at me so gently. Tonight, I'll stay here with you. A wave of nausea hit me. The thought of her coming home to placate me after a passionate night with Charlie made me want to puke. You don't have to. Before I could finish, her phone rang. It was Charlie, his custom ringtone. He had set it himself, some morally ambiguous, sultry piece of music. He had said he just wanted a small corner of Laura's life, that he wouldn't compete with me or hurt me and our son. In the end, Charlie's call lured Laura away. The next morning, I dropped our son off at school and drove to the courthouse. As I walked into the lobby, I saw Charlie right away. He was wearing a flashy red shirt, a stark contrast to his usual cool, detached demeanor. Why do you think he suddenly agreed to the divorce? Do you think the money you offered him was too good to pass up? Laura held his hand. Who knows? He pouted. It's just that you're too kind, too good-hearted. It almost makes me want to be a stay-at-home husband. Do nothing and still walk away with a huge settlement. Laura's expression dimmed slightly, and she sighed. He's in a tough spot, too. He's got a kid to raise. Charlie reached out and smoothed the frown lines on her forehead. I just feel bad for you. After all your hard work for so many years, you're taking a huge loss because of him. Laura was about to say more, but swallowed her words when she saw me. Leo, Charlie said, trotting over to me. He tugged at his shirt shyly, then shot a flirtatious glare back at Laura. You're not mad at me, are you? It's all Laura's fault. She insisted I wear this to celebrate my new beginning. What do you want me to say? He froze. People in the lobby turned to look at us, only now realizing that the couple who had been so lovey-dovey moments ago wasn't here to get a marriage license. Should I praise you? For being so innocent and pure while being the other man? His face went pale, and tears immediately welled in his eyes. Laura pulled him behind her. I've told you before, our marriage fell apart for reasons that have nothing to do with Charlie. If you want to blame someone, blame me. I'm the one who stopped loving you. You're the one who changed so much you weren't worth loving anymore. Right. I'm not worth your love anymore. I chuckled. So you went and loved someone else, and you still want to play the victim. It's disgusting. That's enough, she snapped, glaring at me. I had no intention of arguing with her anyway. We had already done all the fighting we needed to do over the past year. Today was a good day. More people were leaving their graves than walking into them. We waited in line for 3 hours before it was our turn. Charlie had gone to wait in the car. Laura glanced outside and then suddenly asked me, "Are you okay?" I found it strange. Why wouldn't I be? She seemed relieved. "If you ever run into any trouble in the future, you can come to me. After all, I'm still Sam's mother." I ignored her. The clerk looked over our documents, asked if I had children, and then asked what I did for a living. "I've been at home taking care of our son since he was born." The clerk shook her head and advised me to reconsider. Laura instantly tensed up, watching me warily, afraid I'd be persuaded to change my mind. No need. I've thought it through very clearly. The clerk tried to persuade me for a while longer, but seeing I was resolute, she finally had us register. There would be a 30-day waiting period before we could come back and get the final decree. As we walked out of the courthouse, Charlie was already running over, eagerly throwing his arms around Laura. "Where's the divorce decree? Let me see it." Laura glanced at me and explained awkwardly, "There's still a 30-day waiting period." Charlie was crestfallen. He stopped talking and just waited for Laura to comfort him. But Laura just stood there, looking dazed, with a sense of loss. I walked straight to my car, then suddenly remembered something and rolled down the window. "Come get your things tomorrow." Laura was still in that same daze. It took her a moment to process my words. I might not have time these next few days. Then I'll pack them up and ship them to you. Text me your new address." "No, E." She wanted to say more, but I had already driven off. The first thing I did when I got home was change the code on the front door lock. Unexpectedly, Laura was knocking on my door early the next morning. Seeing I'd changed the code, she got a little angry. "You just couldn't wait, could you?" I looked at her, amused. "The way you say that, you'd think I was the one who cheated." Her face soured. She went to the study first to pack her things, and I stood by and watched. At the very bottom of her bookshelf was a box. As she reached for it, she suddenly paused. This bookshelf was hers. I never touched it and had no idea what was in the box. After a few seconds, she picked it up, dusted it off, and slowly opened it. The notebook on top looked familiar. I think I gave it to her back in college. It was the first time we met. She'd forgotten her wallet, and I paid for her things, including that notebook. Later, she found me and tried to pay me back. I refused the money and just asked her to take me to a movie instead. I liked her even then. Somehow, we got closer and closer, and things just naturally fell into place. She carefully took out the notebook. Underneath it was a stack of letters. That was when her father was sick, and she was at home taking care of him. For some crazy reason, instead of calling, I decided to write letters. Her family lived in a rural, mountainous area, and she had to walk over 10 miles to the post office in town every time. Whenever the post office called, she would go, rain or shine. She did that for a whole year. I'll just leave them. She put the notebook back in the box and set it on the desk. Taking these letters and the feelings they represented with her would only be a burden now. Okay. She packed in silence. She had worked hard to make money over the years. Our son had just started kindergarten when we bought this house. We filled this house little by little. She would hold me and our son, talking about the future and making promises. Back then, we both thought we'd live in this house until we were 80. Now, she was having moving guys carry out her traces piece by piece. Just as she was leaving, my mom came back with our son. When she saw Laura, she looked like she was about to charge forward and slap her a few times, but she restrained herself because Sam was there. "Sam," Laura said, her expression tense when she saw the coldness and disgust in her son's eyes. "Can Mommy give you a hug?" He shook his head and ran back to his room. Sam's birth had been difficult. Laura had cried in the delivery room until her legs gave out, saying that if anything happened to the baby, she wouldn't want to live anymore. Her parents were gone. I was all she had left in the world. My parents saw all of this. After the baby was born, my mom held my hand and said with relief, "You didn't choose the wrong person." I had always believed that. I never once doubted Laura's love for me. Who could have guessed that she and Charlie had already met 3 years ago? He liked to write letters, too. His letters were also treasured by Laura in a box, locked away in her office. His box was wiped clean every day, not a speck of dust on it. Mine was covered in it. Laura watched our sons retreating back, her body stiff. She awkwardly retracted her hands and called out, "Mom, please take good care of Leo and Sam for me." My mom sneered and slapped her across the face. Do I need an outsider to tell me how to take care of my own son and grandson? Laura hung her head, not arguing. She finally just nodded and walked out quickly. I went into the study and opened the box. I thought I would unpack the letters one by one, reminiscing about how I had loved her and how she had loved me back. But the moment I opened it, I realized I had absolutely no interest. I picked up the box, walked out, and threw it into the trash can in the hallway. When I turned around, I saw Laura standing there, watching me. She hesitated, wanting to say something but stopping herself. I didn't have the patience to hear her out. As I started to leave, she grabbed my arm. "You never answered me. When did you go see a lawyer about the divorce?" I pushed her hand away. "The 10th of last month." She frowned. "Why the 10th? She knew that day wasn't anything special." I smiled faintly. "You'll find out soon enough." I walked right past her into my apartment. I didn't realize until later that she had gone back and fished the box out of the trash. After the divorce, I moved back in with my parents. They helped me with Sam and I went back to work. The assets had been transferred, but a few $1,000,000 wouldn't be enough to support me and my son for the rest of our lives. Fortunately, even though I'd been at home for years, I had a degree in music, and I hadn't lost my foundation. My old college roommate, Ben, had opened a music school and would occasionally ask me to help out. When he heard I was looking for a job, he was ecstatic and insisted I come work for him. "Okay," I said, looking at him gratefully. "But this time I'm looking for a long-term position." He paused. "Did something happen?" "Nothing major. Just a divorce." His eyes widened. All these years, no matter how Laura behaved at home, she always played the part of a good wife and mother in public. Ben asked hesitantly, "Can I ask why?" "She cheated on me. For years." He rubbed his forehead and gave a bitter smile. "There goes my faith in humanity. I thought there was at least one good woman left in the world." We didn't dwell on it. I quickly threw myself into my work. I've always liked kids. Aside from the period when I first found out about Laura's affair, my mood has always been stable, and I have plenty of patience. The kids in my class all seemed to like me, except for one little boy. From the moment he saw me, he seemed to have a deep-seated hostility toward me. I didn't know him, but there was something familiar about his eyes, a familiarity that made me uneasy. It wasn't until I was leaving work that day that I understood where that familiarity came from. "Dylan, did you miss Daddy?" The boy ran over. "Dad, how come you're picking me up today?"
He walked over slowly.
The boy's father was about to answer when he suddenly saw me, and his face went white as a sheet. "Is this your?" I asked, smiling at a terrified Charlie. He yanked the child behind him and explained stiffly, This is my little brother." Hearing Charlie's words, Dylan's eyes fell, and he clutched his clothes tightly. Oh, I nodded. "Your brother is adorable." I had never seen Charlie so aggressive before. He was always so aloof and delicate. But I didn't expose his lie. Charlie's body didn't relax until I was long gone. The next day, I heard that Dylan was no longer taking piano lessons there. His father came in this morning to unenroll him. He didn't even ask for a refund on the remaining classes. I asked my colleague, "Is his father's name Charlie?" My colleague nodded. "Yeah, that's him. I think he's divorced, though. His ex-wife is a real piece of work. Racked up a ton of debt from bad investments. One time she even secretly took the kid, and I almost got sued." My colleague had been Dylan's piano teacher. When she saw the woman with Dylan and heard him call her mom, she didn't think twice about letting him go with her. But when Charlie's parents heard about it, they were scared out of their wits. Laura's words echoed in my mind. Charlie came to me pure and innocent. I was his first woman. How could I let him down? I couldn't help but laugh. There was going to be quite a show. When I got home, my son was back too. Mom came to my after-school program today, Sam said, holding my arm. She said she wanted to take me out for a nice meal. What did you have? He shook his head. She got a phone call and had to leave. I understood why he was down. He must have known the call that took Laura away was from Charlie. But I heard him asking Mom for money. Mom didn't seem happy about it. I held my son tight. From now on, if she wants to take you anywhere, you have to call Dad first. Okay? I had zero trust left for Laura. With all the crazy news stories online these days, the thought alone sent a chill down my spine. I know. Grandpa and Grandma told me the same thing. I felt a little more at ease. A few days later, however, Laura showed up at my work. She looked haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. Can I help you? I was in a hurry to pick up Sam from his program. She blocked my path but didn't speak. It was amazing how much a divorce had changed us both. She was never this pathetic before. I'm going to Colorado next week. I frowned at her, not understanding what she meant. Will you be back in time for the divorce finalization? She seemed taken aback that I would say that. She looked disappointed. Yes, good. I started to leave, but she blocked me again. What do you want? She took a deep breath and said clearly, I want you to come with me. She explained, I know you've always wanted to go to Colorado to see the mountains, but I was always too busy before to go with you. This time, I want to make up for past regrets. I suddenly found it hilarious. I had indeed mentioned it many times. It wasn't because I'd never been to Colorado, I just wanted to go with her. But she always had an excuse to brush me off. Let's go together, she said urgently. Thinking my silence meant I was tempted. I haven't been there either. You have a really bad memory, I said, looking at her with contempt. Do I need to pull up the video of you and Charlie getting hot and heavy in that hotel in Colorado to jog your memory? A stranger had sent it to me from an unknown number. I didn't have to guess who it was. Laura, since we're getting a divorce, have some dignity. Don't try to have it both ways. You're not capable of it, and you just make me sick. With that, I shoved her aside and got in my car. The month passed quickly, and the day to get our final divorce decree arrived. Charlie tagged along again. This was probably the longest we had gone without seeing each other since we first fell in love. From the moment I entered the lobby, Laura's eyes were fixed on me. Are you doing okay? I nodded. I'm great. And Sam? Is he okay? Are your parents okay? I was getting impatient. Your parents are someone else's problem now. Charlie shot me a cold look. Laura, he took so much of your money. Of course he's happy. You're the only one still acting like a fool, worrying about them. That's enough. Can you stop talking about money for 2 seconds? Charlie's face flushed, and he ran outside. Soon it was our turn. The clerk asked again, Are you sure? You've thought it through and you're sure you want a divorce? Yes. I looked at Laura, who was silent. She was twisting the ring on her ring finger, not saying a word. She slowly turned her head and looked at my hand. My ring was a different style. I had already sold the old one. This new one I bought for myself. After a long pause, Laura finally nodded. Yes, I'm sure. We're getting a divorce. When we came out, Charlie ran up and snatched the divorce decree from Laura's hand. Let me see it. Laura's face was cold. What's there to see? I've just never seen one before. I snorted with laughter. He realized what he'd said, and his face paled slightly. Leo, since the child support was a lump sum payment, could you please stop your son from calling my fiancé? That was an additional condition I had added later. $1 million buyout. Sam's future expenses would have nothing to do with her. I glanced at Laura. She was looking down, not daring to speak. There was no way Sam would call her. She must have been caught with Sam by Charlie and lied, claiming our son was pestering her to see him. I slowly walked up to Charlie and said mockingly, So, which music school is your little brother at now? The color drained from his face. His eyes went wide. Laura frowned slightly. What little brother? When Charlie didn't answer, she asked again. It's just, he stammered, glancing at me. My little brother. I told you about him. I have a little brother. Laura sensed something was wrong but couldn't quite put her finger on it. I had no time to enjoy their fear and confusion. I turned to Laura and said, "I wish you both happiness." With that, I turned and left without a single backward glance. The day before New Year's Eve, my dad told me that Laura had been optimized by her company. My mom wasn't surprised at all. I'm surprised they kept her on until the holidays. A friend of my dad's was the general manager at that company. While I was still debating whether to divorce Laura, he had told my parents the news. At the time, my parents didn't know about Laura's affair. They had originally wanted me to persuade Laura to find a new job sooner rather than later. But then, in the next breath, I said I want a divorce. My dad was stunned. He even tried to convince me that a husband and wife should face difficulties together. How could I be so decisive about divorce just because she was getting laid off? It was July 3rd. Before the divorce, Laura had specifically asked me why that date. To her, it was a completely ordinary day. But to me, it was practically the day I was reborn. I had been hesitant to divorce before, mainly for our son's sake. She had the means to give him a better life, while I had been a stay-at-home dad for years. Her company's decision pushed me to make the right choice. Laura received a severance package, but she had just taken out a loan for a new home with Charlie and was planning their wedding. Without a steady income, it all became a huge burden. I just never expected she would have the nerve to come to me, asking for Sam's child support money back. "Can you just lend it to me? What happened to your savings?" Laura seemed to find it difficult to talk about and didn't want to elaborate. "This money is for Sam, and the divorce agreement is crystal clear. I can't give it to you." Her face soured, and her tone turned pleading. "Leo, we had 10 years together. We have a son. Can you really be this heartless? I told you I'll borrow it. I'll definitely pay you back. I can write you an IOU. You have the nerve to bring up our son? You're the one who failed him, not me." Her face hardened. "That money was originally mine. What right do you have to hold on to it?" I found it laughable and also pathetic. It took me 10 years to finally see who she really was. For all these years, you've been living a comfortable life at home, and what about me? I was out there groveling for a living. What right do you have to take so much of my money? What right? When I quit my job, she had begged me to. She worked hard for her money, so I always tried to be as frugal as possible. Other than hiring a maternity nurse right after Sam was born, I did everything myself. I even had to drag myself out of bed to cook for her and our child when I was sick. And now she was asking me what right I had? "If you want this money, take me to court. Stop playing the victim here." She stared at me coldly. "Fine. Wait for your summons." I refuse to believe the court will favor a freeloader. I'll be waiting. I found out later that she and Charlie had already registered their marriage, and his name was on the deed to their new house. But on their wedding night, Charlie gave her a huge surprise. Tens of millions in debt. They had a massive fight, and Laura even got physical with him. She didn't get the upper hand, though. And so, a middle-aged woman with a dozen scratches on her face started showing up in the job market. A week later, Charlie groveled and apologized, coaxing her back. But as soon as she walked through the door of their home, she found a dozen of his creditors sitting there waiting for her. A large group of people pushed and shoved her, verbally abused her, and threatened to trash her newly renovated apartment. Laura had no choice but to promise to pay back $1 million immediately and work on the rest slowly. But they weren't satisfied and forced both Laura and Charlie to sign new promissory notes. And so, Laura's thumbprint ended up on a stack of IOUs. She was desperate, which is why she had swallowed her pride and come to me for the child support money. She was once so successful and proud. Now, divorced and unemployed, she knew plenty of people were waiting to see her fail. So, a month later, she decided to bite the bullet and throw a wedding. She brought all her relatives from her hometown, booked them in nice hotels, and invited her former colleagues, subordinates, and bosses. She even sent me an invitation, asking me to bring our son. Is she insane? Ben muttered, looking at the invitation. Asking you to bring your son, too? She's lost her mind. After a moment of cursing, he asked me, "You're not actually going, are you?" I laughed. "Of course I'm going. She invited me. How could I not? As the ex-husband, how could I not give her a grand wedding gift?" I found the phone number my old colleague had given me and dialed it. Laura and Charlie's wedding was a grand affair. I did indeed see several of her former bosses there. They were surprised to see me, too, and greeted me with a smile. Didn't expect you to be here. We were family once, after all. Everyone laughed awkwardly. Laura and Charlie walked over, holding hands. They glanced at each other, their smiles incredibly sweet. Leo, I can't believe you came. I'm so happy, Charlie said, his eyes tearing up as he grabbed my hand. Thank you for letting me have Laura. Laura immediately corrected him. It's not that he let you have me. It's that I chose you. I chose the purest, most sincere love. The purest, most sincere love? I tried my best to hold back a laugh. I hope you two can be this sweet forever. And I hope your love always stays this pure and sincere. The people around us looked at me as if they'd seen a ghost. This Laura is really something else. She's got her ex-husband and her current one completely wrapped around her finger. Yeah, look how happy Leo is. That's a genuine smile. But, I don't know, I get the feeling he's just here for the show. The ceremony began soon after. After a long exchange of vows, the officiant announced loudly, "Exchange the rings." Charlie held out his slender fingers. Laura looked at him tenderly, gently taking out the ring and slowly sliding it onto his fingertip. "Daddy!" A child's cry shattered the quiet, sweet atmosphere. Laura's hand froze. She looked toward the source of the sound. A 6 or 7-year-old boy was walking in, holding the hand of a middle-aged woman. "Daddy!" The little boy cried out again. Laura's gaze followed his and finally landed on Charlie, whose face was as white as a sheet. The realization dawned on her. Is he calling you? Isn't he your brother?" The little boy was already crying. "Daddy, are you abandoning me? Please don't leave me, please." "Charlie, you son of a bitch. You dare let my son call another woman mom?" The woman holding Dylan's hand, Shelley, let out a string of curses. "Did you really think I was dead?" Charlie's parents rushed over to try and kick her out but were shoved to the ground instead. Charlie also charged down, hammering at the woman with all his might. "Why won't you just leave me alone? I've already been through so much because of you. Why do you have to keep haunting me?" The woman easily subdued him and shoved him hard to the floor. "I wasn't going to come, but then I hear you're about to let my son take another man's name? He's the only precious son I've got." The wedding reception instantly descended into chaos. Well, they're both on their second marriage. I guess they're a good match. But it looks like the bride didn't know the groom was married before. She was just bragging to us about how Charlie had been saving himself for her all these years. Turns out his son is already this big. Came for the food, but we got a great show instead. The wedding gift was totally worth it. Laura had hoped this wedding would show everyone how well she was doing. Instead, she was humiliated in front of everyone she knew. She stood on the stage, helpless, not knowing whether to stay or go. When Charlie was being beaten and called out to her for help, she didn't move. It was his ex-wife, Shelley, who marched onto the stage in 2 steps and started screaming in Laura's face. Laura, not expecting to be attacked, was caught completely off guard and stumbled backward. The guests were all enjoying the drama. No one stepped in to stop it. I had eaten my fill and seen enough of the show. I picked up my things and left. Life went on. Before the holidays were over, I took my son and my parents on a trip. When we got back, I saw a haggard and pathetic-looking Laura standing at our door. "Mom? Sam." The moment Laura saw our son, her eyes turned red. But Sam just clung to me tightly, not running into her arms as she had expected. She finally understood the depth of the pain she had caused me and our son. "Leo, I want to talk to you. Can we?" I didn't refuse. "I chose the coffee shop we used to frequent. We used to come here all the time in college," she said, looking around nostalgically. "What do you want to talk about? If it's about borrowing money, forget it." She waved her hands frantically. No, that's not why I'm here." I didn't speak, waiting for her to continue. "Your birthday is coming up." She pushed a beautifully wrapped box across the table to me. My birthday was still 3 months away. "Do you remember? When we were together, I always gave you your birthday present early." She said it while sneaking glances at my face, then pushed the box she'd been clutching toward me. It was the same box I had thrown in the trash, filled with the letters we had written to each other years ago. I went back and got it, she said, sniffling as tears fell. I've realized that the person I love most is still you, Leo. I really do love you. I was just temporarily confused by that bastard Charlie. She rambled on about the past until I cut her off mercilessly. Do you think I have a lot of time on my hands? Her face stiffened, and she dropped to her knees in front of me. Leo, give me another chance. I'll never do anything to let you or our son down again. Okay? Ha ha ha. I couldn't help but laugh. I never knew you could be this shameless. How do you have the nerve to say something like that? I stood up. And don't bother bringing up our past. It only makes me more disgusted with you. Don't come looking for me again. Don't make me and our son lose all respect for you. When I left, Laura was still kneeling there. A new colleague started at the music school, and it turned out she used to be Charlie's neighbor. Only then did I learn that Charlie had gotten married in college. His parents had been against it, but Charlie had forced their hand by getting Shelley pregnant with Dylan. After they were married, his ex-wife said she wanted to start a business. Charlie, of course, supported her completely, not only selling the house his parents had bought for them, but also borrowing $3 million from friends and relatives in his own name. But his ex-wife wasn't starting a business, she was gambling the money away. Charlie felt sorry for her and threatened to kill himself to get his parents to mortgage their house for a loan. He even took out loans from loan sharks, all to help his ex-wife pay off her gambling debts. He was so desperate to be with Laura because he saw her earning potential. She could not only help him pay off his debts, but also give him and his son a better life. But fate had other plans, and Laura got laid off. Now, his debts had become Laura's debts. They sold their house and still owed $2 million. Laura's own plans to start a business had vanished into thin air. By the time I heard about it, the two of them had been forced out of the city. Later, I heard that Laura was working for a company in another state. Not long after, she was charged with embezzling company funds and sentenced to several years in prison. The thought that she would be over 40 when she got out and still have to raise someone else's child was like a knife to her heart. Charlie's ex-wife at least had a quick end, alcohol poisoning. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. All I had to do was manage my own quiet life, taking time off now and then to travel with my parents and my son. We weren't wealthy, but we had everything we needed.